What's going on, everybody? Khaleep's Tech here, coming back at you with another video. In this video, we're going to be doing a quick comparison between the Samsung Galaxy A73 5G and the Samsung Galaxy A33 5G. Now, if you want to learn more about either of these phones individually, I will be linking to several other videos about them in the description, as well as some information about pricing and availability. But with that being said, let's get into it. So starting with the Samsung Galaxy A73 5G, with this phone, we're getting a 6.7-inch 120Hz Super AMOLED Plus display with a 1080p resolution, a PPI of 392, and an aspect ratio of 20:9. With the Samsung Galaxy A33 5G, we're getting a 6.4-inch 90Hz Super AMOLED display with a resolution of 1080p, a PPI of 411, and an aspect ratio of 20:9. So in general, both displays are really good and they're actually pretty similar. Both phones have great display technology, and this is going to give them really nice looking colors and great brightness and viewing angles as well. So if you're outside in the sun, for example, these phones are both going to be really easy to see. But the two main differences here are that, first of all, the Samsung Galaxy A73 5G is obviously a lot larger than the A33 5G, so if you're consuming a lot of content, maybe you're streaming videos or playing games for example, you are going to get a better experience with that on a larger display. But at the same time, I know some people don't really like to have a really large phone, so in that case, if you do want something a little bit more compact, then you might be better off with the A33 5G. Another difference here is that with the Samsung Galaxy A73 5G, again, we are getting a 120Hz refresh rate versus a 90Hz refresh rate with the A33 5G. Now, this is really not going to make a huge difference in my opinion, but technically the movement on the screen with the A73 5G is going to be a little bit faster and smoother. You probably can't tell in this video, but when you're actually consuming content like watching videos and playing games, you probably will notice at least a little bit. And in general, when you're using the phone, the A73 5G is going to feel a little bit more premium. Now for storage, both phones are getting 128GB of internal storage with microSD card expansion. Keep in mind, both phones do have several different variants out there, some of which do have 256, but again, both phones in this video have 128. And that being said, 128GB is definitely a pretty good amount of storage. Now if you're really a power user, if you have a bunch of apps, lots of photos and videos, especially 4K videos, you might actually want a little bit more storage, and in that case 256GB might be better. But keep in mind, again, both phones do have 256GB variants, so if that is an issue for you, definitely keep this in mind. In addition to this, again, both phones do have microSD card expansion, so if you have a lot of photos and videos, for example, you can always offload those and save some space. So in general, I would say storage is great for both of these phones. Now for security features, both phones do have in-display fingerprint scanners. They look real nice and modern, and both phones also have Face Unlock as well. But starting with the Samsung Galaxy A73 5G, let's go ahead and give these fingerprint scanners a try and see how well they work. There we go, one more time. And there we go. Moving on to the A33 5G. There we go. And there we go. So as you can see, both fingerprint scanners worked real well. And remember, both phones also do have Face Unlock as well. So if you want to use that instead, you always can. Now taking a look at the camera setups here, with the Samsung Galaxy A73 5G, we got a nice looking hole punch design for the front facing camera. And this camera is 32 megapixels. Then on the back, we got a quad camera setup with the 108 megapixel main camera, a 12 megapixel ultra wide camera, a 5 megapixel macro camera, and a 5 megapixel depth sensing camera. For video, this phone can record in 4K at 30 frames per second in both the rear and front cameras, so definitely nice there. With the Samsung Galaxy A33 5G, we got a water drop notch for the front facing camera. Definitely not as nice looking as the hole punch, but for what it is, it really isn't bad. And then this camera is 13 megapixels. Then on the back, we got a quad camera setup with a 48 megapixel main camera, an 8 megapixel ultra wide camera, a 2 megapixel depth sensing camera, and a 5 megapixel macro camera. And for video, this phone is the same kind of thing. We got a max quality of 4K at 30 frames per second in both the rear and front cameras. So again, definitely nice. We can record in 4K, especially seeing as a lot of other manufacturers have been taking away that feature in their mid-range phones. So in general, both phones do have really good camera setups, pretty much all the features, including ultra wide cameras and macro cameras. So no matter what you're taking pictures of, these phones will definitely at least get the job done. Now, as far as which one is better, I would say in general, the Samsung Galaxy A73 5G does take better photos on average, but I gotta say, the Samsung Galaxy A33 5G does have one of the most impressive macro cameras I've ever seen. But in general, for regular photos, including ultra wide photos, and videos for that matter, the A73 5G will have an advantage. But just keep in mind the A33 5G is not bad either, and if you're just taking casual photos even for social media or something, this phone will absolutely get the job done. But again, if you're more of a content creator, for example, and you're really just taking photos all the time, again, overall, the A73 5G will have an advantage. Now, as far as RAM and processor go, with the Samsung Galaxy A73 5G, we're getting 8GB of RAM with the Qualcomm Snapdragon 778G 5G processor. With the Samsung Galaxy A33 5G, we're getting 6GB of RAM with the Samsung Exynos 1280 processor. Now, I ran Geekbench 5 benchmark tests on both of these phones, and with the Samsung Galaxy A73 5G, we're getting a single core score of 773 and a multi-core score of 2888. And with the A33 5G, we're getting a single core score of 740 and a multi-core score of 1847. So as you can see here, definitely quite a difference. No matter what you're doing, whether you're doing more basic activities like web browsing and social media, or higher performance stuff like mobile gaming, the Samsung Galaxy A73 5G is going to be significantly faster. While not being quite as powerful as something like an iPhone 13 Pro Max or a Samsung Galaxy S22 Ultra, for example, the Samsung Galaxy A73 5G is really approaching flagship level, and it's actually pretty comparable to stuff like the Samsung Galaxy S21 FE and the Google Pixel 6a. So if you do want a really powerful phone, if you're really just going to be on your phone all the time, or maybe you're doing something like playing Call of Duty, for example, in that case, I would say the Samsung Galaxy A73 5G will definitely be the better choice here. But on the other hand, just because this phone is a lot faster doesn't mean the Samsung Galaxy A33 5G is a slow phone. In fact, quite the opposite. This phone actually does have really good performance too, and if you're just doing more basic activities like web browsing, social media, and maybe the occasional gaming here and there, the Samsung Galaxy A33 5G will absolutely get the job done. But what I recommend doing is running this test on your current phone and comparing your results to these, and that's going to give you a better idea of which phone is a better upgrade for you. You might find that while obviously the Samsung Galaxy A73 5G is the faster of the two, the Samsung Galaxy A33 5G might be a good enough upgrade for you already. Now, these phones have pretty much the exact same battery specs, with 5000 mAh batteries supporting 25-watt fast charging, so definitely real good batteries here. Not only are you going to get a ton of life per charge and longevity down the road, but with a strong enough fast charger, you're definitely going to save a lot of time on charging. So if battery life and longevity and features in general are important to you, then either of these phones will be a great choice. In addition to this, both phones do have NFC, so if you like to make contactless mobile payments using tap and pay, you'll be happy to know that you can do that with either phone. But in conclusion, which of these devices is better? In general, in pretty much every way, I would say the Samsung Galaxy A73 5G is the better device here. It has a larger display with a slightly higher refresh rate. It does take better photos for the most part, although again, I was really impressed with the macro camera on the A33 5G. And in addition to all this, the A73 5G has a much better processor, so no matter what you're doing, you're going to get better performance on this phone. But on the other hand, the Samsung Galaxy A33 5G still, again, is not a slow phone by any means. It also does have a good camera setup, a great display, a really large battery with good fast charging, and it has some nice features like NFC. So in general, although the Samsung Galaxy A73 5G is a significantly better device, for a lot of people, I feel like the Samsung Galaxy A33 5G is going to be perfectly fine. But that being said, of course, if you want a larger display, a more premium looking design, a better camera, and a really powerful processor, the Samsung Galaxy A73 5G will be the way to go. But at the end of the day, despite their differences, I do think both of these phones are great devices that provide a lot of value for the money. Again, if you want to learn more about either of them individually, I will be linking to several other videos about them in the description, as well as some information about pricing and availability, because this is always changing. But this concludes my comparison between the Samsung Galaxy A73 5G and the Samsung Galaxy A33 5G. If you enjoyed the video and found it useful, be sure to give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button. Don't forget to follow Kalipus Tech on Twitter and Instagram, and as always, I will see you in the next video.